All right already! Greetings everyone, and welcome to the very long-awaited third and final part of Transformers, the VHS years. This time around we'll be talking about the Rhino home video VHS releases that were basically the last blast for Transformers on VHS prior to entering the digital world of DVD. And, well, yeah, we'll talk about that next time. But for now, let's talk about the last of the VHS tapes. Now I can hear some of you furiously scratching your heads, and I can hear you having bewildered expressions on your face. Yes, very noisy faces. Wondering, well, this says part 3. When did parts 1 and 2 happen? Well, the simple answer to that question is parts 1 and 2 of this little overview actually occurred almost a year ago. Yeah, back in the second week of October of last year, I did the first 2 parts of the VHS overview of Transformers with the intent to continue on and do like reviews of DVDs and just do all things Transformers. Got sidetracked, ended up moving, had Halloween to deal with, so I had like all this horror stuff going on and for the rest of October. Yeah, just ended up putting it off, and it was only just recently that I finally found the box that had all the VHS tapes and videos in it. So now at long last I can continue and hopefully conclude the series about the Transformers videos. Now, I know a lot of you are probably new viewers and you're wondering, well, how the heck do I find the first 2 parts? I don't want to be left out of the fun. Well, I'll put the links for the first 2 parts in the description down below. Or if you're watching this years from now and YouTube has changed their layout again, I'll put it wherever the description happens to be located these days. Let me turn off the fan because it's probably creating a lot of noise. Ah, that's a little better, isn't it? Okay, just before we begin, I have to make a couple of quick shout-outs to a couple of viewers who helped clarify a few points back in Part 2. Part 2 is when I covered the Malafilm and Seville and Behavior releases, which are all basically the same company under different names. So I have to thank both Jedi Master Kermit and Firebird Knight, because they clarified a couple of questions that I had posed in that particular episode. Namely, whether or not Megatron's master plan and More Than Meets the Eye were in fact the G2 versions on the Generation 2 VHS tapes. Turns out they are. The other thing I wanted to know was if the Malafilm DVD release of Transformers the movie had the same mono soundtrack that could be found on the corresponding VHS release. Apparently it does. It is encoded as a Dolby 2.0 track, but it is clearly mono audio apparently. So, that should clarify the questions of the previous one. Also, I screwed up the episode count of Generation 2. It was not 65 episodes, it was 52 episodes. So presumably they would have done one more batch of 13 episodes of butchering the originals to make an even 65. Okay, so carrying on. First off, of course, we had the Family Home Entertainment releases, then we had the Malafilm releases, and then finally, for the VHS era, we had the Rhino releases. Now before starting to do proper season sets of the show, Rhino, I guess, wanted to test the waters first to see what kind of demand there was for new releases of the Transformers on VHS, especially given how many previous releases there were. Now to their credit, while the initial batch of offerings from Rhino essentially contained random selections of episodes, the vast majority of those episodes were ones that had never previously been released on VHS, at least not on this side of the pond. I know over in the UK there were quite a few more releases than what we got over here. Here we mostly just kept getting re-releases of the first season and then a random batch of Generation 2 episodes. So a lot of the Seasons 2 and 3 episodes we just never got. Then, of course, we did get a couple releases of Season 4 as well, the 3-part Rebirth story. So anyway, for fans like myself, it was really exciting when these new releases came out from Rhino, because for the first time in literally almost 20 years, we could see a lot of these episodes again, and in beautiful quality, far better than what we had been seeing previously on fan sets and bootlegs and whatnot. So let's take a look and see what exactly Rhino released. Now, they actually did do 12 volumes, which were available individually or in box sets of 3 volumes apiece. So there was 4 sets of 3 volumes. I used to have all 12 of the individual volumes. Now I have 8. I have 8 of the 12. So I actually tried to sell them a while back, and I thought I was selling them for a very reasonable price. They were retailing for about $10 a volume, and I was selling them used on eBay, but in mint condition. I mean, for crying out loud, look at them. They're still in mint condition. I take good care of my shit, thank you very much. So I got one guy who was interested in them. Now, I was selling them for $5. $5 a piece, which at the time was quite reasonable. They are mint condition, brand new. If you put shrink wrap on them, they could pass for new. I take impeccable care of my tapes. So this one guy was interested and was giving me all this attitude about how, like, oh, well, can you give me a deal if I buy a bunch of them? I said, they're $5 each. That is a deal. I really can't go any lower than that. And he's like, oh, come on. You can do better than that for VHS. This is when DVD was just beginning to pick up steam, and there was already talk of DVD releases of the show coming out, which, my attitude was, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, as it turns out, it happened, but at the time it was very up in the air. So anyway, this guy was just giving me all this attitude about it, and yeah, needless to say, I didn't sell them. I managed to sell a few individual volumes, but the vast majority of them I did not, and here they are. And it's kind of funny because now I wouldn't mind getting those volumes again to once again complete the set, just to have as a nice display piece, but whatever. Now, one thing I should mention, there were some complaints about the Rhino DVDs, specifically because they used work prints. The reason they used work prints was because they had them on 35mm film, which meant much cleaner, better quality sources for the DVDs. The problem was they were work prints, which meant they were incomplete, and there was a lot of animation errors that were later fixed for the broadcast versions and such. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail when we talk about the Rhino DVDs. But the reason I mention it is because the VHS releases, with the exception of the season sets that were later released, the VHS releases, the 12 individual volumes, are actually all from the original 1-inch broadcast tapes. So you will see the occasional tape glitch here and there, but rest assured that at least the episodes are complete, as originally broadcast. No, they're not going to be as amazing quality as the 35mm work prints, obviously, but at least they're complete, and they're far better than any bootleg out there. Yeah, so I was very happy to get these. In particular, I was happy to get this volume, Evolution Revolution, because this actually contained the elusive last 2 episodes of Season 1 that I didn't have all this time, as Heavy Metal War and the Insecticon Syndrome. So that's the final 2 episodes of Season 1 right there in one handy-dandy volume. So between all of these and that tape, I have the complete Season 1 at long last. I was very happy about that. It seems that I had a little bit more to say about the remains of the VHS collection than I thought, and it's just a little bit too long to have it all as one video. So we're going to split it up into 2 parts, and this is the end of part 1. So tune in again next time for the grand conclusion of the Transformers on VHS. Until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time. I mean, sayonara. Oh, I have to, come on. You're right there. Looking for something here. Hang on, I'm gonna pause. Just gonna pause. I need to find something that'll shut out. Okay, first off, I have to thank both Jedi Master. Now, first, Rhino, see how fans would react to Transformers releases, to see what kind of demand there was for new releases of the Transformers cartoons on VHS. Now, much to their credit, Rhino's initial batch of Transformers VHS releases contained a nice mix of stuff that had been released before, but the vast majority of it was stuff that had never been released. Ah! I have issues. Now, to their credit, while the